Prince Andrew, now known as Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, was stripped of his royal titles, honors, and style in late 2025, marking one of the most historic royal demotions in modern British history. What began as quiet internal discussions between senior royal advisors quickly turned into a major constitutional moment as King Charles III took the unprecedented step of formally initiating the removal of his own brother's titles. For decades, the Duke of York had been one of the Queen's most publicly visible children, but the accumulation of controversies surrounding his personal conduct, associations, and long-standing scandals pushed the monarchy to act. When King Charles moved to revoke his titles, including the style His Royal Highness and the princely dignity he had held since birth, it signaled not just a disciplinary measure, but a dramatic shift in how the modern royal family deals with scandal from within. The official decree came through on November 3, 2025, when a letters patent was issued under the Great Seal of the realm. This formal document made it unmistakably clear Andrew was no longer entitled to the style, dignity, or identity of a prince of the United Kingdom. Overnight, a man who had lived his entire life as Prince Andrew, Duke of York, was legally reclassified simply as Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. The royal titles that once shielded him, elevated him, and defined his public presence vanished with the stroke of the monarch's pen. It was the final severing of his official royal identity, a symbolic exile delivered through the quiet but immense power of constitutional authority. His hereditary peerages, the prestigious Dukedom of York, the Earldom of Inverness, and the Barony of Killyleagh, were also removed from the role of the peerage. This meant that these titles, passed down through centuries of aristocratic lineage and bestowed upon him at marriage, no longer held any legal or ceremonial standing. They ceased to exist in his name. For a member of the royal family, losing peerages is not simply an administrative update. It is a permanent erasure of one's historical position within the aristocracy. It strips away status, privilege, and legacy, leaving only the private individual behind. Adding to this historic downfall, Andrew was also required to vacate his longtime residence at Royal Lodge, the grand 30-room mansion on the Windsor estate he had occupied for more than 2 decades. The property had been a symbol of his enduring comfort and royal protection, even as scandals mounted around him. Although the eviction order was issued, insiders reported that Andrew might not actually leave until after Christmas, due to logistical complications and personal resistance. The idea of him packing up his belongings and leaving the home where he raised his daughters and where he had enjoyed uninterrupted privacy became yet another layer in the public drama surrounding his fall from grace. Yet, despite this sweeping symbolic and legal purge of nearly every royal privilege he once held, the official records of succession to the British throne have not changed. As astonishing as it sounds, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor remains 8th in line to the throne. The stripping of titles, honors, and royal residence affects his public identity, not his bloodline. Under the constitutional monarchy, lineage is rooted in birthright, not reputation, which means that no matter how dramatic his fall has been, his genetic place in the hereditary order remains untouched. Why does that matter? Because the line of succession isn't governed by royal decision or public outrage. It is governed strictly by statutory law and hereditary descent. Removing someone from the line is not as simple as the monarch signing a document or issuing a decree. It requires a full act of parliament, a piece of legislation that must be drafted, debated, and passed through both houses. And that's not all. Because the British monarch is head of state in 14 Commonwealth realms, those countries must also unanimously approve the change. That means Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and others would all need to legislate the same alteration. It is an immense political and diplomatic undertaking, and historically, such processes take years. Past efforts to change the succession laws demonstrate just how difficult this coordination can be. When the rule of male primogeniture, the system that once placed sons ahead of daughters, was abolished, it took nearly 2 years of negotiations, legal drafting, and synchronized parliamentary approvals across the Commonwealth, and that change was broadly supported, uncontroversial, and symbolic of modernization. Trying to change the succession for the sole purpose of removing Andrew, an individual who poses no practical threat to the monarchy, is viewed by many as highly unlikely. And so for now, despite the public humiliation, the loss of every title he has ever held, and even the forced eviction from his royal residence, Andrew still appears on the statutory royal roster. In the eyes of the law, in official documents, and in the historical lineage of the crown, he remains a potential heir. His chances of ever becoming king are virtually non-existent, given the number of direct heirs in front of him, but the legal possibility continues to exist, preserved by centuries-old constitutional rules that cannot be easily undone. This paradox has not been unnoticed. It has sparked intense debate, outrage, and head-scratching across the world. On one side, the public sees a disgraced ex-royal, stripped of his titles, shunned from public duties, and removed from the front lines of royalty. On the other, they see him still legally positioned within the sacred line of succession, a place traditionally reserved for those seen as embodying dignity, stability, and national pride. The fact that Andrew remains in this line has become a symbol of the monarchy's slow-moving constitutional machinery, and of the tension between royal tradition and public expectation. Critics argue that his continued presence in the succession undermines the moral authority of the monarchy. Many victims advocates who have spent years calling for accountability regarding Andrew's associations believe that removing titles is not enough. They argue that the monarchy should take a stronger stance, not just symbolically, but legally, and remove him from any position that ties him to the crown, even hypothetically. For these voices, his name appearing on the list of heirs represents a painful reminder of unresolved injustices. Supporters of constitutional tradition, however, warn that bending or rewriting succession laws for one individual, even one surrounded by scandal, would be a dangerous precedent. They argue that hereditary monarchy relies on predictability, stability, and rules that cannot be altered based on popular opinion or political pressure. To them, the line of succession is a foundational pillar of the British system, and altering it in response to scandal could destabilize an institution that has survived for centuries. As of now, official statements from both the royal household and the government confirm that there are no plans to modify the line of succession or introduce legislation that would remove Andrew from it. The monarchy appears to have taken the approach of stripping him of every practical privilege while leaving his legal position untouched. It is a way of distancing the institution from his personal controversies without engaging in a constitutional overhaul that would ripple across the Commonwealth. So here's the dramatic reality. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has lost his princely identity. He has lost his honors, his titles, his standing in public life, and even the home he once believed he would retire in. His presence at royal events has evaporated, and his name has been reduced to its civilian form. But when it comes to the ancient laws that determine who might one day wear the crown, none of those losses matter. The law still places him in line. He is still there, not by choice, not by favor, but by birth. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more celebrity updates just like this.